Yo, what is up, everyone? Puppet here from Gleving Academy, and welcome to Frame by Frame. And Frame by Frame is a video series that I like to do to just review people's light shows. I do this privately in my Patreon, patreon.com/Gleving Academy. But over the months, I've realized, this might be something that I would want to do more openly for the public, and that's exactly what I'm doing. So today we're going over Seismic's show. Dylan is part of the Gleving Academy as well. So we're going to go ahead and watch Seismic's show and then kind of go over it after. I'm digging the vibes. A little bit of shakes there. I don't know if that's nervous thing, because it is the first take. Going in there raw, posing a take out there raw.
To breathe the words to you, the words just won't come out, so I cry.
Love the pacing so far.
Right on the canvas, built from feeling, emotion persevering inside.
I love the theme of his moves to the song.
One touch to open, one touch to close.
He likes those
One
little
touch to show me
hits.
not all minds are cold.
A little bit of a misalignment on the fingers there.
Loosen
Not too
the
bad.
hold. One touch to free me from falling down on my
Okay, we're gonna have to go over that part where the DMB comes in, right?
One touch to open.
Sick sequence here. He did the missing finger thing, I think.
Not all minds are cold.
A lot of lines here.
Loosen
Maybe a couple of cleanliness things that we could work on that instance there with that platform.
no shadow, darkness,
Clean whips. Clean whips. Probably the strongest aspect about Dylan's shows is his whips. I love the swipe that he's doing on the camera. Works really well. That was actually super short. And it honestly felt like a commercial for whips and flails. Which kind of goes to show in terms of storytelling, I feel like it's really hard to showcase storytelling in a show that's 2 minutes, right? I feel like 3 minutes is the sweet spot. But honestly, it really did feel like to me a commercial for whips. So, okay, we're gonna go ahead and kind of just go through some of the parts that I feel like are worth noting. So, super minor thing here. When he goes into this form here, you can kind of see that his fingers are a little bit open, right? Now the problem that I have with this is that, I think that form, especially in moves where you're not moving a lot, is extremely important. Now, I don't know if this is actually a genetic thing, where because I know there are some Glevers that no matter how hard they try when they close their hand, there's a little bit of an indentation there. But I just really want, everybody should just be striving to keep your form and your lines clean. No open lines like that, because it kind of messes around with the grid, or it kind of messes around with the cleanliness, I think, of just the form. Because right now he has it kind of like this with an indentation on that right hand side, right? But if it were just to clean up, you can see the difference. Compare that to if I'm gonna start the show, compare this to this. I think it really plays a huge effect in the light show. So there are a couple moves he does that have this. So it's just simply flexing your fingers together, right? But I want you to pay attention to this finger, okay? He kind of does a little bit of a pinky bend here And I don't know if that was on purpose. But the fact that I didn't know if it was on purpose because there's really nothing happening in the song right now makes me feel like it was like a little hiccup, right? Super small detail. Let's watch that one more time. He bends it there, right? There's nothing happening in the show. Aha! And I saw this a little bit earlier. But you see how there's this alignment here where it's just not point perfect? Compare... He's doing something like this, right? Compare this to this, where everything is perfect and all the lines are pinpoint accuracy, right? You see this a lot in a lot of light shows, and it's just perfecting the angle. I think it's just refining the forms, right? And I understand, like, getting into like something like it's kind of hard, right? Just eyeball it. All you have to do is eyeball your fingers and just double check to see if your points are clean. So there's this instance where right as the lyrics come out, Dylan does like this shake. And now I think about this in two different ways. I think that in terms of like hitting the lyrics, I think maybe we could have done a little bit better in terms of hitting the lyrics because we go into like
Open my mouth to breathe.
we go into like a finger roll and it kind of opens up right now that the lyrics are introduced. But there's also something about the shakiness of this overhand finger roll that I think really captures the song in this intense way. Even though the song isn't very tensed, you know what I mean? Let's watch this instance one more time because we open up here.
Open my mouth to breathe the words to you.
Like that shake, right? Like, I don't know if that's intentional. He might just have, like, the jitters there. But sometimes those little jitters kind of work. And I think that kind of worked there. So I just thought that was an interesting point to point out.
The words just won't come out, so I cry.
I love how, like, in the background, you can hear, like, this airy instrument where it's like, right? And he's utilizing his movement here to kind of capture that sound, right? So, like, try to listen in the background.
To you, to breathe the words to you. The words just won't come out, so I
There it is.
cry.
Like, that's sick. I really love how he's close to the lens here because to me, the song feels very intimate. And so coming in close like that and really just like even doing floor moves close during like parts like that or songs like this rather, I think really captures the vibe really well.
It's just one touch.
A little bit of a cleanliness thing when he whips out here.
It's just
Like you can tell just by like the left side or well the left hand rather. Well, I don't even know if that's his left hand, but the hand on the left side.
one.
It's not quite clean, you know what I'm saying? Like, there are certain, like, I guess, whip forms that I feel like could just be worked on, especially towards the camera, because when you're doing stuff like that, we have to remember that, like, all these forms are, like, should be towards the camera, right? Because we're recording it. So if we were to just, like, have our palms face the camera lens, the form could look a little bit better. But then if you're kind of just doing it out here, there's something about the form which I think is it's just not as clean. Like, let's look at that one more time.
It's just
You see what I mean?
one touch to open, one touch to close, one.
And I mentioned this earlier, but he does the kind of a misalignment here. Where, like, if you pay attention to, like, where his fingers are on top of each other,
To show me,
like, right here,
no, all my.
especially in this angle, you can definitely see it in this angle where, like, he has a little bit of a misalignment here. And when I say misalignment, it looks a little bit like this. You know, like not this, where the alignment is perfect, right? It looks more like off center. You know what I mean?
Lines are cold. One
And then,
touch to
yeah, we have a little bit of these, like, these indentations again. So, yeah, again, I don't know if that's a genetic thing or if he's able to actually close them.
loosen.
And here again, the alignment is again, it's kind of a misaligned, right? It's not the cleanest form out there. And I think a big part of that as well is that, like, because the pinkies aren't touching, like, I really think it really breaks this form here.
Loosen the hold. One touch to free me.
I love how he is utilizing the sides of the camera here to kind of bounce off, right? Super OG thing that, like, a lot of OGs used to do, obviously. That I feel like we could definitely be working on, off that. I guess as like a newer generation, we could be taking that and even use different forms. Like, it doesn't have to be like this form, maybe even like that form, or just bouncing like forms like that somehow if you want to. Just a suggestion. But I love that he's bouncing and going off camera. And I think the common misconception about like going off camera, because I'll see a lot of comments, especially on Glover's Lounge, where it's like, okay, like, yeah, your moves are going off the screen. I think that it's okay to a degree, if you're doing things like this and you're going out of field on purpose to kind of simulate the feeling of, like, in real life, if they were to actually come to your side. You know, there's this thing about loss of information that really creates this, like, oh wow, like this heavy contrast in your attention, where it's like, if it's out of your field, and when it comes in the field, it kind of does something to your brain. And so I love that he's doing that. I just feel like, you know, if you're going to be going off the screen and you're doing like tech forms, like you're doing like heavy tech forms and you're just completely off, you're like here, then yeah, it's a problem. But like, if you're just coming to the side like this, I don't think it's a big problem at all. So that's really cool that, you know, Dylan, being a new generation Glover, is utilizing that in his shows.
From falling down on my
So this is probably the biggest part, I think, for me in this show, is that the music really just goes. Like, the drum and bass aspect just is just blam right in your face. But I don't think that Seismic's like speed or like the moves represented during that time is accurate. Because I feel like he's a little behind. Like, I feel like he's a step below. I just want to see him take it up a notch the moment that this part comes on. Let's look at how he transitions within this part again.
in the hold. One touch to free me from falling down on my
And it's a little bit, the form's a little bit shaky there. Right, we go here, and we have a form that looks like this rather, but like the fingers on the top are again, they're separated. So like, if we were to like clean up the form to maybe something like that, then it'd be a lot better. But even then, this form is really hard to make work, right? Because there's just so many sporadic lines. It's just making sure that all the fingers align in a column or a row. And, you know, just looking at the rows and columns, like these lines here could be a column, right? This is this is a row, right? And then these lines here could be aligned in a column. But they're kind of sporadic in this form, so we could definitely be cleaning up on this form. Same thing with the thumbs. Like, the thumb here is a little bit lingering there off to a diagonal, and, you know, it's just perfecting those forms and flexing those forms. And then, okay, so this is a little bit harder to go through, but we're going to go here. And again, you know, we have our rings touching. Yeah, so this might be one of those things where it may not make logical sense. I guess it could, because, like, technically, if your thumbs were if this is actually correct logically, we could have our thumbs connected, but the length of the rings, at least for mine, don't actually touch, so we might be forcing the angle here. Actually, I think this is fine. It's just that if you look at the lines, right, this is kind of bent, and then this is not, the point is not directly on the, facing towards the lens. And so it becomes really hard to make it look clean. Right? And we're going pretty fast here. It doesn't seem as fluent compared to his whips.
falling down on my
You know, and this is one of the things where we're going into tech, but we just break off of it, right? And I don't know if this is a transitional problem, because I just feel like when the music comes out, and that's a weird thing to say, but when the music like opens up like that, that should be the time to showcase more of your moves, right? If you were to actually think about this in like a storytelling like aspect, then that would be considered kind of like the climax, right? Because when there are more elements introduced in the song, there should be more elements to the show. Now, I know we did tech, but I feel like it is pretty lackluster compared to his whips and flails, if you know what I'm saying. And it could just be because he may not be as fluent within this technical concepts, right?
From falling down on my
Like, to me, this is like the main part of the song, but it feels kind of fillerish. And okay, let's go back. Another moment where like the forms could be a little bit better, right? We were like kind of off here. So I mean, it's just one of those things where it's debatable, right? It's like, okay, is this cleaner? Is this cleaner? You know what I mean? If it's off center, is it cleaner? Because I feel like small stuff like that could be miles, right? It's perfecting the point of the accuracy, and it's really hard to do this when you're typically a Floyer-based glover. Just go back to that. Right? It's like one of those things where usually when you're a Floyer-based glover, like I know Dylan is, it can be sometimes easy to perfect that form. Sometimes I feel like when you're more of a Floyer momentum-based glover, it can be easy to just kind of be unclean with forms like this because you're so stuck in the momentum, and it's really hard to clean up when you're in that constant state of motion, right? Like for example, like this, right? So it's like we could have the pinkies connect here rather than it kind of just be out of alignment there. A little bit of a shake here. There might be a little bit of a control issue with the speed control. Like, look at this part. You see how this hand kind of jitters a little bit? And then same thing again. We have like the indentations with the forms. So really, Dylan, it's really more about the perfection in all your forms that you have, right?
one touch to open.
Yeah, like again, another indentation. Like whenever I see these forms, the biggest thing that stands out to me isn't necessarily the sequences, it's about the perfection in forms, right? And it's, if you see those imperfections periodically throughout your show, it becomes really hard to see what's actually happening, right? I just see the lines.
One touch to show me.
I really like the pause here with the platform. But again, it's like we have these sporadic lines in the show. Is that, you know, is there a reason for these sporadic lines? Could you use those sporadic lines as tools for when you're actually doing the combo? Or are they just open just because, right?
No, all minds are cold. One touch to loosen the hold. One touch to free me.
Okay, now we're gonna rewatch the best part of the show.
No shadow, darkness,
Like, freaking clean, man. Like, there's a huge difference. Do you see the difference compared from his tech to his flails and his whips?
no shadow, darkness.
Dylan, we need to have the same fluency in our tech that we have with our whips and flails, man. Because it's like, this is top level cleanliness right here. Like, you need this with your technical sequences. And the viciousness that you have with them. Like, that's not something that I feel like is present within your technical sequences yet. And that, that just might be reps. That just might be the lab time and the effort that you put into really sitting down and like cleaning up your lines, right? And one way for me personally and how I would fix this is that, I would sometimes do things like where like, okay, I'm going to do like I'll go into my sequences, right? But I'll like feel the contact of where I'm tracing on my hand. So therefore, like, because that contact kind of leaves a little bit, it's like a memory thing, right? And like, how many times have you repped those technical sequences compared to repping your whips, right? It's kind of easy to rep your whips. So we need that same type of discipline within your tech sequences. Now, as far as the complexity within the whips and flails, I would say that, you are definitely more on that higher end to intermediate level of your whips and flails. They're super clean, but at the same time, it's like, what else could you do with them that makes you stand out from the crowd, right? Like, what else could you do with whips that allows you to be unique, or like, what could you do with your whips, whether it be flail placement, like separating hands, whether it be your whip pattern, because they're really good stereotypical whips and flails, right? So I think where you're at with that is like, how could you just make it different? How could you add to it, right? Could I add something to my whips and flails and combine that with your tech more so often? Because it seems like your tech sequences are your tech sequences, and that your whip sequences are like your whip sequences. But what if you did your tech and your whip sequences together? Because you obviously have perfected the cleanliness within your flails. So it's like, what if you could utilize that within your tech somehow? And I feel like there's something for you there. There's definitely something. That, and there's something about the intensity within your shows that I really do enjoy and I really do admire. There's something about it. I don't know what it is. It might be your overall progression throughout your storytelling, because you knew how to pick it up at the end. So key things that I feel like we definitely need to improve on is that, we need to clean up forms, right? And, it just goes about labbing forms over and over. It's really looking at your forms and being honest with yourself is whether or not, like, okay, is there an indentation there? Should I be doing this form even if I can't stop the indentation, right? I feel like you need that whip energy in your tech energy, because again, it's night and day when you do your tech compared to your whips, right? And also to stop your shakiness. Just periodically throughout the show, I did see a little bit of shakiness, so I definitely think that's something that he just needs to learn how to control by. I just recommend just taking deep breaths before the show. That is his one take. So it's small stuff like that just really needs to be worked on. And I think after he does this, then it's like, bro, like, this show is going to be golden. Then he's ready to take the next step and then, advance his whip flail concepts. And then we should be good. So a couple of announcements. I am working on making the Gloving Academy Discord open to the public, and by joining the Discord, Glovers will have a chance at submitting their videos so then I could do free coaching and frame-by-frame analysis for them. I'm currently working on it, so stay tuned for announcements on when that does go public and when you can submit your video. If you're looking for whites, battery skins, or any other gloving accessories, head on over to glow-leds.com, and don't forget to use my code AlohaNation for 10% off. Also, if you're interested in joining the Gloving Academy Patreon, I do weekly educational content, working on doing subscriber only events and a whole bunch of other stuff. I've got a lot of ideas for the Patreon. It's only $10 a month. I'm putting my whole decade's worth of knowledge and information within this thing, and so you'll get access to exclusive stuff only for Patreon members. If you're interested in that, go to patreon.com/Gloving Academy. Other than that, guys, hope this video helps. Stay tuned for more Gloving Academy content. Peace.